So welcome to the Spotlight series, and what we're going to do in this one is we're going to look at the sidekick kneeling, more about the setup and the control of the action rather than the full dynamic movement. And then we're going to be looking at the one leg circle, very simple and controlled movement. Both are going to be working into making sure the trunk is strengthened. So let's start off with sidekick kneeling. So if we go to the kneeling position, there's an original version, a more traditional version, and the version where we bring in a little bit more balance, a little bit more strength work through the trunk, and it's this latter that we're going to focus on. So with the one where we focus more on this control and this trunk itself and the setup, you need to keep, we're going to take this leg out to the side, you need to keep the hip joint above the knee. So in this position here, you have to get the hand to the floor, and to get down there, to give yourself space, you need to open out the leg to the side. So the two actions will happen at the same time. We're going to encourage you to work with the fingertips so that you're not actually putting too much weight into the hand, which will bring the hip away from the knee, and that's going to keep you working. Now here, if you can even go to one finger, it's going to be very effective. The problem with this position for a lot of people is the alignment of the spine. So we'll look at the alignment from your view just now from the front, and the neck is one that a lot of people stress on, either let it drop down or to lift it up by the ear. It's the same shape you have standing that's going to go back down to the floor in this position. Now with the rib cage, we're trying to avoid lateral flexion. So we're trying to have the lower waist not much shorter than the upper waist. It's going to be hard to achieve that, but it's not allowing you to collapse in. So the feeling here is all about that length, not just simply dropping in the waist. I'm going to give you a different view now. I'm going to go from the long view so you can see that there's also the alignment from your standing neutral. So if I take my hand out to the side here and take the leg away, what you don't want to see is the pelvis is tilted back or sitting back over the calf and the ankle, or that you push so far forward, the ribs are forward and your back's in a lot of tension and compression here. So we're trying to stay above the knee joint. So there's a glass wall right in front of you. You don't want to push through that. And as you go down to the side, the rib cage doesn't push forward, the back muscles feel the same as length as they would do standing, and you're sitting without the pelvis going into the back. So the back foot is free for movement. So let's have a try on this on the other side very briefly. So you're taking it out with a sense of balance. So the center is going to be working to the fingertips, leg goes out to the side. Now here, the hand, if you put it behind the head, which is more traditional, you might change your spine alignment. So either touch the side of the ear, put it on the hip, or even take it to the ceiling. In this position here, my favorite for the shoulder tension, you're going to bring the leg up to the height no higher than the hip socket. And there for the moment today, we'll stay with the action of up and down. When you find your range, you're just going to move a little bit forward and back to start. That can be done even sliding on the floor. Always working these muscles in the hip, working the muscles of the trunk, stabilizing. Bring it back in. If you've overworked those muscles, always just give yourself a little bit of release out, a little bit of stretch into those. And that would be our sidekick kneeling introduction, obviously building repetition up over time and range of movement. So we're going to look at the one leg circle, single leg circle. And to get into this movement, we need to be in our base position. So we're going to roll down to the mat and set up the neutral. And again here, we've got traditional as opposed to modified contemporary. It has different purposes. It always has been a combination of strength and mobility. The mobility is the hip joint. So in the base position, we're going to work on the neutral spine alignment, which is always applied in this movement, but we're going to keep the leg length short and the stabilizing leg in place, and we're going to work on a small range of movement to begin with so we can focus on the stability rather than over focusing on the flexibility at the back of the leg. We're going to keep the movement starting small, circling out. As you go each time, try and circle further. What's going to limit your movement? It's about the control. So the pelvis doesn't move. As the leg goes out to the side, the opposite hip, so for me the back hip from you, is not going to come off the mat. That keeping it in place works to challenge the center, but it also makes the mobility in the hip joint more effective. For this movement to develop, you may feel some strange feelings in the hip joint itself. As long as it's not painful, you're okay to keep going. It's just a natural sign. Check your setup. We would change the direction, but what we typically do is one leg one direction, the other leg same direction, which could be out in your mind, back to the first leg so we don't overwork those hip flexor muscles. So one leg circle, developing the circle, working on the precision, you get the benefit of both the mobilization of the hip joint plus the stabilization of the pelvis and lower back.